History is often written in blood, but it begins in silence. January 5th, 1066. The air in Westminster is cold. A king is dying, and with his final breath, the old world of the Anglo-Saxons begins to crumble. Part 1. The Crisis of Succession. To understand Hastings, we must first look at the map of claims. King Edward the Confessor dies childless. But the vacancy on the English throne was not a simple matter of inheritance. It was the spark for a European wildfire. Here in Westminster, Harold Godwinson is crowned. He is the most powerful man in England, the head of the Godwin family, who controlled the earldoms of Wessex, East Anglia, and beyond. To the English Witan, he was the only choice, a warrior statesman, a man of the soil. But he knows that a crown taken from a dead man's bed is a heavy burden, especially when a promise was made across the sea. Across the Channel, Duke William of Normandy claims that Edward, his cousin, had promised him the throne years prior, an oath allegedly confirmed by Harold himself over sacred relics. But there is a third shadow. In the frozen north, Harold Hardrada, the last Viking, invokes a pact made between previous kings. Harold Hardrada, the last great Viking king of Norway, saw the English throne as his birthright. His claim was rooted in an ancient Danish-Norwegian pact that if the heir of Harthnut died without an issue, control of his lands, including England, would pass to the Norwegians. For Harold, this was not a matter of deathbed whispers or fragile oaths. It was a matter of Norse dynastic right, ready to be enforced by cold, hard steel. Then the sky itself spoke. The long-haired star appeared. For 7 nights it burned over England. In the taverns and the mead halls, men whispered of the end of days. A bad omen for a new king, a sign that the North and the South were preparing to strike. Across the Channel, Duke William, known to some as the Bastard, does not believe in omens. He believes in steel, in oaths, and in his divine right. He calls his knights. He orders the Phaelina forests to build a fleet. He is not just preparing a raid. He is preparing a transformation. The Norman wolf is hungry, and England is the prey. The stage is set. 1 throne, 3 kings, and a collision course that would end the Viking Age. Part 2. The Northern Storm. Let us look at the logistics of a double invasion. While William gathers 700 ships at the mouth of the Dive and later St. Valery, the wind refuses to blow. In August 1066, the North Sea churned. Harold's ambition was not born out of thin air. He claimed an ancient pact that if the royal line of England should fail, the throne belonged to the Norse. The fuel for this fire arrived in the form of Tostig, the exiled brother of the Saxon king, Harold Godwinson. Thirsting for revenge, Tostig offered Harold what he desired most, a legitimate reason for war. Harold assembled a colossal force, 250 ships and 15,000 warriors hardened by 1,000 battles. They crossed the freezing waters, gathering reinforcements in the Orkney Islands and Scotland. It was the last great Viking expedition in history. A storm of iron sweeping toward the English coast. The Yorkshire coast trembled beneath the invaders' feet. Scarborough resisted, only to be reduced to ashes and tribute. The fleet sailed up the River Ouse to Rickle, just 10 miles from York. Harold was confident. He believed the Saxon king was still guarding the south against the Normans, leaving the north vulnerable and at his mercy. On September 20th, the first great clash occurred at the Marsh of Fulford. Harold showed why he was called Hardrada, the hard ruler. He shrewdly used Tostig as bait on his right flank, luring the English into a trap. When the Saxons broke formation to charge, Harold unleashed his elite. The marsh was choked with bodies, and York, the capital of the north, had no choice but to bow. Harold offered York generous terms. A hostage exchange was set for Stamford Bridge. Confident in his victory, the Viking king allowed his men to rest at Recall. What he did not know was that Harold of England was performing a military miracle, marching 200 miles in just 4 days under the September sun. The enemy was not in the south. He was already at the gates. September 25th, the sun glinted on Saxon steel. Harold and his men were caught at Stamford Bridge without their chainmail armor, which had been left behind on the ships. Tostig suggested a retreat, but the Norse giant only laughed. He sent 3 riders racing back to Recall for reinforcements, while planting his Landwaster banner on the high ground. The fight would be to the end. The battle was a brutal war of attrition. In the heat of combat, the Berserker spirit took hold of Harold. He charged without protection, tearing through the Saxon lines until fate finally found him. An arrow pierced his throat. Harold Hardrada, the last great Viking, fell upon the land he came to conquer. The Viking threat is ended forever. But look at the cost. Harold's elite huscarls are exhausted, and his army is hundreds of miles away from where it needs to be. Because on September 28th, the wind finally changed for William. Part 3. The Hill of Senlac. October 14th, 9 a.m. The location is Senlac Hill. Harold has taken the high ground, blocking the road to London. His army is composed almost entirely of infantry. In the center, the huscarls, professional warriors in long mail hauberks, wielding the terrifying Danish two-handed axe. They form the shield wall, a mile-long barricade of interlocking timber and steel. William's army is different. It is a combined arms force. At the front, the archers. Behind them, the heavy infantry, and the mailed fist, the Norman cavalry. These knights use a revolutionary technology, habacked saddles and stirrups allowing them to couch their lances and deliver a blow with the full weight of the horse. The battle begins with a stalemate. The Norman archers fire uphill, but their arrows glance off the shield wall. The Norman infantry charges, but they are hacked down by the Danish axes. Even the cavalry fails to break the line. For hours, the shield wall holds. It is a war of attrition where the Saxons only need to stand still to win. Victory was within Harold's grasp until a rumor spread. The Duke is dead. The Norman left flank crumbled in panic. Seeing this, the less disciplined Saxon Fyrd broke formation to pursue them down the hill. It was a fatal mistake. William, alive and furious, removed his helmet to rally his men.
I love!
He saw the opening. He ordered feigned retreats, repeatedly tricking the Saxons into leaving the safety of the hill. Once in the open, the Norman cavalry turned and slaughtered the unorganized infantry in the mud. By sunset, the shield wall was thin. The final Norman assault was a hail of arrows and a desperate cavalry charge. Harold Godwinson fell struck in the eye, then dismembered. The Anglo-Saxon era died on that hill. William was no longer the bastard. He was the conqueror. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more animated history.